Alrighty, welcome to another episode of the Lockdown Podcast. As you can see, we are back at full strength, and we have a exuberant amount of things to get to. We have WrestleMania stuff, we have the Raw and SmackDown after, we have releases that happened, we have just a lot to get to, and so before we dig into WrestleMania, like, what are your thoughts on the overall product that was WrestleMania? Because WrestleMania was a C minus, like overall. There are good spots, but overall, both shows were absolute trash. So that's my thoughts.
Night one, trash. Night two was a hell of a lot better than night one. Roman and CM Punk's match, 5-star match. Hell of a good match. Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton's match sucked donkey dick. Because Orton wasn't doing jack shit. I don't know if he's actually hurt or what, but
Bim.
that little punt to Cody Rhodes' side of the face and get him that nice, good brown shiny, I like.
Yeah. So
I
Yeah, I think overall, if not for the CM Punk Roman Reigns match, there'd be of more, a lot more issues with WrestleMania as a whole. It really did. Night two did set the bar pretty high with Oba and Brock, ending with Roman and CM Punk. Night two definitely carried the weekend, and I would say those two matches carried the entire event.
yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I
So
yeah.
yeah, and so like it in the order of which the matches were, being that each night had the two kickoff matches. Um, I think it could have been organized better. And I think the only reason why it was ordered in which it was because you put some of those higher caliber matches on, actual ESPN, you get more eyes on the product. And I think that because WWE is starting to realize there's a lot of fallout from the fan base, that they're doing whatever they have to do to get eyes on the product. Um, and and you've seen it even when you looked at the arena, like it looked like it was really, there was a lot of people there, but like I I I full wholeheartedly believe they probably gave away 5 to 10,000 tickets and just bit the bullet and bit the cost, because the ticket sales leading up to the whole weekend were dismal. And I know obviously we don't believe everything that you read, but it's hard not to when it's coming out of the voices of tons of people. So I think that you know the length of the matches were very dismal, very disappointing. um but I digress. But it was nice to see the kickoff. Obviously, of night one, we had Austin Theory, Logan Paul, I Show Speed versus the Usos in LA Knight. And I mean, the match length was terrible. And honestly, like, without the I Show Speed putting, I don't know if it was I don't know if it was Logan Paul or was Austin Theory through the table, but without that spot, the match was, I mean, like, it was when it was after the match. There was more excitement after the match than there was during the match. Is kind of what I'm gauging. And I hope that there's something moving forward between the Usos and the Vision. I hope Usos get another shot at the tag team titles. Obviously, with them kind of realigning sorta with Roman Reigns, it just seems fitting to revamp the bloodline, as the group ish as it were. So I guess we have to wait and see for that. Now, the unsanctioned match between Jacob Fatu and Drew McIntyre, I I thought it could have been way better.
I thought it was good. I enjoyed it.
I mean,
Mm.
it was good, but like I felt like they could have, I guess, gone further down the rabbit hole of being an unsanctioned match. But I mean, they definitely tore the house down in regards to like crowd response, right? Because like that's the gauging of how good a match is that if you're getting crowd, you're getting the "this is awesome" or "holy shit" moments and stuff like that, and you definitely seen that in those matches. Um, Now the next match we had Stephanie Vaquer versus Liv Morgan, and I cannot stand Liv Morgan on multiple levels. Her voice reminds me of Vicky Guerrero, and it's just obnoxious. It's annoying. She and she plays this whole character of being the best whatever, and she's not even in the top 20. And so now that obviously she's champion, now we get to hear her chirp as she does, but I'm not too thrilled. I don't like that they, when they changed Stephanie Vaquer's music and
I
then and
hate
then
that.
and then gave her the most vanilla intro music they possibly could. A little bit of guitar, a little bit of drum. I mean, it was like the backing track for a generic ass band.
Mhm.
But I think Stephanie's just kind of running with it at this point. She's frustrated. She was vocal about it when it initially happened, on social media in regards to the music because the music had it resonated with her character, and that's what the entrance music is supposed to be, not this just plumb basic um intro. But so the next match we had AJ Lee versus Becky Lynch for the Women's Intercontinental Championship. And I know we talked about this many of times, is that AJ Lee is the nostalgic act. And I've been vocal about this, that, Becky Lynch is going to bring the championship into the upper echelons, and that's not something AJ Lee is going to do. And now with Becky Lynch being champion, I hope that we get more exciting matchups. I hope they don't dull this title as they have in the past, because the Women's United States Championship is literally is boring. Like I'm more excited to hear Alicia Taylor introduce introduce wrestlers than I am watching a Julia United States Championship match.
Mhm.
Um, and so our third, I guess, well, one, two, three, four, fifth match. We did have the women's fatal four-way tag match with Nia Jax and Lash Legend being champions versus Charlotte Flair and Alexa, Bayley and Lyra versus Brie Bella and the returning Paige. And this is such a setup. Like, this was such a setup. It wasn't even funny. Nikki Bella's not hurt. She's not anything. She's just, they just had to have an in to basically bring back Paige. And I'm not against it. I love
Oh,
Paige.
I'm happy.
I in what's crazy is Paige can leave for 8 years and come back and still be younger than one of the younger ones in the roster. And that speaks volumes to Paige, because she was a staple in WWE in the 2010, 2015 era. And the fact that she can leave, go to another company, kind of reinvent herself, which is what we always strive for, right? If you can go somewhere else, reinvent yourself and come back, we're all for it. And so I'm happy that Paige is back. I'm not really too entertained by Brie Bella and Paige being the tag team champions. I hope this is short lived. Again, it's a nostalgic act. Nostalgia does not resonate with the new fan base, because yeah, cool, you're a past whatever, cool, yeah, you won a championship, but like, we need to move forward with talent that we have currently, that are on the brands, that are younger, hungrier. And I definitely think we need to give them a short title reign and move on. Now, next match we had, which was kind of pre-main event, was Seth Rollins and Gunther. And this is why I don't believe in injuries in WWE. Unless I can physically see someone's leg jack or get dropped on their head or anything of that nature, I don't believe a damn thing they do when they say injuries. Because in the middle of this match, tail end of the match, we get the ref conveniently just, I don't know, outside the ring, tying his shoes, popping a stick of gum. I don't know what he was doing. He really had no business being where he was. And we get the emergence of Braun Breaker returning. And I'm all for him returning, which is obviously going to lead us into a match at Backlash, guaranteed. Seth Rollins,
Oh,
Braun
definitely,
Breaker.
100%.
But and it was kind of funny, and I think people there had to see it worse than we've seen on TV. Like the second spear that he gave when he was like running down the ramp the second time, completely like missed Seth Rollins, like nudged his hip maybe. And Seth Rollins, being the ever showman that he is, obviously played it like it was worse.
Yeah, which is good on Seth.
Right. And so obviously we finished off night one with the Cody versus Randy, and Pat, just get out of here, Fee, for real. And the only thing that I was happy about Cody winning was the fact that Pat McAfee said if Randy did not win, you'll never see Pat McAfee in WWE ever again. That's the only good thing that came out of that match. Obviously Randy got the last laugh. Basically just wrecking Cody after the match. But so your guys' thoughts, night one, doesn't have to be in any specific order. Any of the matches you want to break down, you guys have the stage.
Night one was probably really lackluster for everybody involved. But it set us up for a better night two, because there's absolutely no way night two could have sucked as bad as night one. So just keeping it very vague, very general. Night one was probably pretty bad on the scale of WWE WrestleMania, PLEs, pay-per-views. Yeah, even the Undertaker, like having that match with Goldberg. I think it happened that was Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, it was overseas.
Night one WrestleMania as a whole was just as bad as that WrestleMania or that Undertaker and Goldberg match.
I agree, 100%.
Yeah. So, night two saved the entire weekend, in my opinion. Danhausen really is going to fit in well with the WWE. Yeah, that's it. That's all I got for WrestleMania. It was
So the dullness of night one obviously set up night two. Didn't set the bar too high. Like I said, overall, honestly, in its entirety, I'm still on the C minus C plus. So Tim, do you have anything to say in regards to night one before we, scroll down to night?
Not really.
All right. So Sunday obviously kicked off with a bang, and we had Obafemi Brock Lesnar, and in like most of us said, this wasn't going to be a long match, but this was the ultimate passing of the torch, and because Brock Lesnar is a once in a generation talent. Going from being, an NCAA champion to a WWE champion to, because he could, go over to UFC champion, come back to WWE champion.
Yeah, he was over in New Japan champion.
yep.
Yeah. And so so to get the torch passed, obviously Obafemi winning this match, is a massive moment in professional wrestling. I don't think this is not something I think anyone takes lightly, because Brock has been in the business for 20 plus, probably 20 years, if not longer, honestly. And so for him to pass the torch to Obafemi is an exuberant amount of respect. And I think if WWE plays their cards right, Obafemi is going to be that guy.
Mm-hmm.
But in typical fashion with WWE, they fuck shit up all the time. And now that we know, really, Triple H is not really saying shit about anything in creative, it's TK Stupid O, they better not fumble this, because this is a pinnacle moment in professional wrestling. Obviously Brock essentially retiring, and I think those emotions that he had were absolute genuine. Obafemi kind of gave him the hats off, walking back up the ramp.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was a cool moment. It was very subtle. Yeah, and so this match did not disappoint. And definitely, again, this is the more, putting it on ESPN, there's more eyes on it now, because people can just, they watch the first two matches again of each night just on regular ass ESPN. So I like I said, they had to put these caliber matches on there. And the next match obviously didn't disappoint either, with the 6-pack ladder match between Penta being the champion, Javon Evans, Dragon Lee, JD McDonough, Rusev, and Rey Mysterio. And I am actually perfectly fine that Penta retained. And I think that you got to showcase Javon Evans and Dragon Lee and JD McDonough. Like Rusev and Rey Mysterio, like, they're good. They're first ballot Hall of Famers in any generation. So like them not winning is not, it's not going to make or break their career. I thought this match, having Javon Evans, Dragon Lee, and JD McDonough, was their time to shine.
Definitely.
And it did not disappoint. I don't think
they definitely did shine.
I honestly don't think I've seen a ladder match that's ever disappointed me. I think it's insane hitting the spots they do, and doing the kinds of things they do with ladders is beyond me. And so, again, this was the second match of night two, and you're already amped. You're already invested in night two because of just those two kickoffs. And now we go into the first, I guess technically the first match of night 2, I guess, not being a kickoff match, but we had Jade Cargill versus Rhea Ripley, and I'm kind of indifferent because I know we talked about this beforehand in regards to Jade Cargill, right? And how she's had very limited title defenses, stuff like that. And I honestly think if Bianca wasn't pregnant, I think that we would still have Jade as champion. Because now with that happening, I think honestly, as much as I love Rhea being champion, I thought this was a pivot moment because we had the whole Jade and Bianca like feud, and then Bianca got hurt, and so then plans changed, and they basically dragged the floor with Jade being champion, assuming that when Bianca got back, they could. Because honestly, I thought in my head, if I was writing things, it would have been Bianca winning the Royal Rumble or the Elimination Chamber, and going on to beat Jade. But obviously, things happen, plans pivot, and again, I'm not mad that Rhea won. Yeah. So now the next match we had was the United States Championship. Sami Zayn being champion versus Trick Williams, and Sami Zayn can take an L and still be Sami Zayn.
Yep.
And him essentially putting over Trick Williams in the fashion in which he did, not mad about it. I've preached this from the pulpit many times about new talent and pushing them and seeing what happens. They did that with Lyra Valkyria. Over the last couple of years, she didn't really kind of pan out, and so now they kind of pushed her to the tag team division, which she's still good at. But like, I don't think Trick Williams is going to get put in a tag team anytime soon. And him obviously winning at WrestleMania, definitely speaks volumes to his work and his being over, authentically. I think that, in WWE, if you can get over authentically and like Trick has, let him be champion.
Yeah.
So now the next match we got to see was the Demon Finn Balor versus Dominic Mysterio. Obviously, Finn Balor winning. They really wouldn't have the Demon come back if he was going to take an L. Finn can take L's. The Demon can't. And then obviously we had the main event of night 2 being CM Punk versus Roman Reigns. And obviously, Roman won. But obviously there's a lot of open-ended discussion about this match. So, yeah. So, thoughts on night 2? Other than it carried WrestleMania, because night 1 was kind of eh. So,
I think night 2 had a couple of matches that were letdowns. However, if creative is not interfered with, they have the potential to lead into better stories that will carry for the next 6 to 9 months. Javon Evans getting his first championship. Jade Cargill bouncing back. Where does she go? How does Rhea navigate new competition? What happens to Charlotte and Alexa? Will we ever get the Io Sky versus Asuka match? Uh, what's next for Obafemi? How does CM Punk rebound from this loss? And I think doing that creative bit with those matches and those characters could be a tall task if creative is interfered with. Outside of that, I've said what I said about WrestleMania.
What about you, Tim?
I think a lot of the matches on night 2 were great. I enjoyed every single one of them. But I think my all-time favorite would probably be Roman and CM Punk's match.
Yeah.
I love how the referee just pretty much kind of let them get away with a lot of shit, looked away on a lot of stuff, let them beat the shit out of each other. I enjoyed it.
Well, and this is where lies the discussion of Roman doing what obviously he did with the steps, yada yada. But I feel like CM Punk did a low blow. So I mean, I feel like, it's tit for tat. And in the amount of times that people have used things and never got disqualified for, putting someone through a table, there's no disqualification for that. I think the ring steps are part of the ring. And I think this being the match that it was, it required the extra additive to it. Because now it's open-ended. But based on obviously Raw and SmackDown the week after, it's not a conversation anymore. It happened, it's done, we're gonna move forward. And so we got the Monday Night Raw after Mania, and we get Roman planked with the Usos in what appears to be some form of a bloodline reunion. I don't think we're gonna see Sami Zayn join again, but never say never. But and so we get them out there, and then here comes Jacob Fatu, and I think we might as well just say fuck the brand split. Because it's just not a thing anymore. There's no brand loyalty, when they have their brand that they're on or whatever. Because you see Cody freaking bouncing around, you see CM Punk bouncing around, and other wrestlers you see bounce around. And so I feel like we're at the point where brand split, I'm good. So so it was weird to see Jacob Fatu out there, because it doesn't make sense. I mean, obviously there's Samoan bloodline story stuff for this, so it's going to be authentic regardless of how they book it. But at the press conference after WrestleMania, there was verbal confrontation between Oba and Roman, and then all of a sudden, then we get to Monday night, and then it's just Jacob Fatu is just going to show up and do what he does, and it's like it didn't make any sense.
It does make sense. It does make sense to me. If you were to look at the theories and probably what rumors and dirt sheets are, yeah, I don't need Oba and Roman Reigns right now. I really, really don't. I would rather see Gunther and Roman Reigns before I see Oba and Roman Reigns.
I'd rather see Oba and Roman Reigns on a bigger stage sometime down the road.
Yeah.
I mean, do
Oba
you,
needs credibility. Beating Brock Lesnar one time does not give you credibility.
No.
However, it was wonderful to see.
so do you think that
But
it's something that we might see Oba start running roughshod throughout the year, and
I don't.
maybe this is something of the caliber, let's say hypothetically, next year Oba wins the Royal Rumble,
Yeah, I need to
and
see.
and
I
then
need to
you get
see.
him on the biggest stage in the biggest
Yeah,
match, and then you
I
give
need
him
to
that
see
adulation.
Brock
I
Lesnar
can
type.
see that.
I can see Brock Lesnar type work. With Oba women winning, he needs conflict. He needs to have his trial by fires. He needs to have big time matches.
Yeah,
Roman said it best is like, it's like I've beaten Brock Lesnar and I've beaten him with a championship. I need to see work from you, which is probably what I've said in,
and
several
he's not
podcasts.
wrong.
No, he's not.
No, you can't just throw him in, put a championship on him, and tell everybody he's the next big thing. No. The WWE way is for there to be conflict. There's to be, he's got to win, he's got to lose, he's got to win, he's got to
Well,
lose, he's got to,
and
he's got to do that work.
there has to be a good build to it too. I
Yeah.
mean, and I think that if we get towards the end of this year and we have Oba, the ruler, really just running roughshod as Brock did once upon a time, and then and it's like he goes into the Royal Rumble and just eliminates 20 people or something, and then you really have that story to build on from
Mhm.
January till April. And I think that, yeah, like you said, he has to have those ebbs and flows. He has to have that real built up credibility as far as who he's faced. Yes, Brock obviously is one of the pinnacles to defeat, but he's got plenty of opponents to run through to build up his credibility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
Jacob
yeah,
Fatu makes more sense because um one, it is there's some influence with Roman Reigns, if you were to believe that, wrestlers do have influence over who they want to do matches with, and that sort of thing. So I would like to see I would like to see this Jacob Fatu match with Roman have a lot of um have a lot of I don't know, have
build.
a lot of layers to it.
Yeah.
Tell a lot of stories.
Yeah.
Like you're the cousin that's not worth my trouble. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Yeah.
And
I
have,
mean,
yeah. So
well, and the thing is too is that like it- based on what Roman said again in the press conference, is that like he ain't gonna be no part timer,
No, he said he's gonna be there all summer long.
so like I I think this gives Roman more credibility being back to being semi full time. I think this brings more eyes to the product if you get Roman, because he's a draw, like it or lump it. Whether he was temporary or full time, he's a draw. He has the draw of The Rock. Period. And so he has so give him some year to go just smash people, as he says, and leave, and get those matches, and then you have Oba running a you know, you know, parallel year, and then eventually it comes to a head. And this might be a long way to get to that fork in the road, but I feel like they're gonna run parallel till they don't. And I think if you could really build this out, I'm all for it, dude. Um, Now, so obviously we had Obafemi obviously come out after, basically say a couple things and literally leave, which again is it's just his flex. And then we get to the first match of the night on Monday, which was Rhea Ripley and Io Sky versus the Kabuki Warriors. And I think this was the ultimate goodbye, being that Kairi Sane got released. I think this was the last time for those.
Fuck you, WWE.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think this was
She was my
good,
favorite.
Yeah. I think this was a good send off for the last four because they've had such a historic, storyline over the last, couple years. It's unfortunate, but I feel like you know what? If you're gonna get a goodbye, at least have it with the people that you've had good storylines with. So, it's again, and it was confusing because obviously, like you felt like, Rhea should have had a celebration, more than a match, But again, knowing what we know now, it makes sense. Um, but now we get to the next bit of the night. Obviously, we get Cody Rhodes coming to Raw. I wish he would just stay in his own brand and stay the fuck out of the way. But here comes Mr. QB1 and does what he does, chirps what he chirps. And then we get the emergence of CM Punk. And this segment was stupid. This segment was nonchalant. This was something that was a storyline a while ago. And now that they've taken the belt off CM Punk, now we can get the run back between Cody Rhodes and CM Punk. Now, I don't know if this is going to be backlash worthy. I think this is definitely something of a bigger PLE necessity if we're going to run this. This deserves stadium level quality of a match, not just some schmuck of a 13,000 basic ass PLE. But Cody basically says, "Oh yeah, well, you just basically picked the day," and so it's like we're just rushing from one to the other. Like I wish there would have been room to breathe, to try to have CM Punk maybe, say some things in regards to him and Roman Reigns match. There was no discussion of that. There was no talk. There was no, I want to run this back with Roman because, he did XYZ, and they're just moving on. And I think that's dumb on their part. I think that it kind of makes their match not mean shit. Because he has to have something to say about losing the belt in the way he did. But he didn't. He just fucking moved on and did whatever else. And I think that doesn't bode well for probably a lot of fans who are also on the fence of, this match and how it happened, using the steps, CM Punk doing the low blow. I mean, there was a lot to unpack in this match, and it seems like they're just like, fuck it, move on. Like, what are your guys' thoughts on just this lackluster situation?
Yeah, to gloss over a loss like that, I think I don't know what to think about that. On the one hand, it could be creative. On the other hand, it could be TKO ownership. On the other hand, it could just be just CM Punk just doing CM Punk stuff, like, oh, that loss didn't mean anything, or I'm but in reality, I don't know what to think about that. But I think eventually it gets addressed, and we just have to go from there.
But I mean, does it make sense to address it after the fact? Like this
It doesn't.
should have been a real depthy conversation, because
Yeah, there should.
it was the same thing that Randy and Gunther went through, right, when his
Yeah,
shoulder was up, and they ran it back the next PLE,
but
and
they did give they did address that like after the fact. But for CM Punk to show up after a loss, after probably one of his better performances in the last 4 years, um, and for him not to really mention that, um, and again, I didn't catch that segment, but it should have been there should have been more noise from CM Punk about that. Um, and there should have just been more about that. Also, maybe it was punishment because of his antics after the match with Roman Reigns, where he was just acting like he was punch drunk, and just exhausted, and he was just carrying on and stuff like that. But
and maybe it's just the thing. Maybe honestly, it could just be all the shit that the Pipe Bomb 2.0 that he brought, and maybe obviously it's scripted for the most part, but like, maybe this is their way of being like, yeah, you get to move on. You don't get time to speak on this. Like you talked a bunch of shit. Now you don't get to rehash anything with Roman. Go do something else.
and yeah, maybe it's that, maybe it's who knows. But for them not to push that or even say like well done Roman and move on, maybe it was something that was missed and that you know we just didn't pick up in that segment when it first started. um so yeah, I don't know, what to think of that. But I also too, I don't need to see Cody and CM Punk. I don't need to see that match. um Not at all. Not at all.
I would
Because
love
if Randy wasn't going to give us the black hair Cody, then CM Punk is supposed to do it. No, no, no. Um, I I need something else from Cody. Yeah,
What are your thoughts, Tim?
I thought his little speech there was pretty good. I liked it. He acknowledged and respected Roman. Cody Rhodes coming out and CM Punk kind of smiling at his little eye. I would love to see CM Punk versus Cody Rhodes for the WWE Undisputed Championship. I could see CM Punk going to SmackDown, being on SmackDown.
yeah. Raw needs some help. Yeah, Raw needs a lot of help to make that product more engaging. So maybe the summer of Roman um helps Netflix and Raw. So yeah, maybe CM Punk needs to be on Friday nights. Um,
Yeah, I mean it's definitely intriguing that they just didn't do anything about it. I don't want them to just bum rush into another, championship match, because what happens hypothetically. So if CM Punk goes to SmackDown, and let's say they go to Backlash and CM Punk wins, what does the landscape look like with CM Punk on SmackDown and Cody losing? Like, what does that do for Cody? Because the reality is, with Cody Rhodes, the premise of his return was to finish the story. And that's what his whole encompass of him being back was, always chasing the story. And now that he's won the belt for, 3 times now, you know, what does Cody Rhodes look like not being champion? Is there anything for him to not be champion? Because Roman could not be champion and still be plenty involved. CM Punk could not be champion and still be plenty involved. So where does that put Cody if hypothetically they go to Backlash and CM Punk wins?
I don't think Cody has a draw without some type of championship gold or in some type of contention for world championships, because that's what they built the expectation to be. It's either Cody with a championship or to hell with Cody. I would rather see the fall of Cody and his redemption towards the championship than Cody barely holding on to championships. Cody having this weird fetish with getting hurt to sell stories. That's weird to me. That's really strange. He's got to stop doing that.
It's because he has nothing to offer when he's not champion.
Right. And rebuilding him to be something without a championship, I think is probably more interesting than seeing Cody as a champion. If we were to just think about it like that. Outside of that, you know what? Let CM Punk, get his get all the championships that he needs to be a Triple Crown or whatever it is, and then let CM Punk move on to whatever it is that he needs to move on to, whether that's retirement, whether that's whatever. If that's what they want to do, that's what
I
CM Punk
think he
wants
will
to do.
retire soon.
Yeah, then let's let that go. Let's do that. Let's do that. Outside of that, I don't need to see Cody and CM Punk until SummerSlam.
Agreed.
Agree.
But what do you do between May and August?
You build it up. And you build up CM Punk either as the face who's exposing Cody as a fraud, or you build up Cody knowing that if he doesn't get it done, then he's a failure, and that the fans were never behind him and that sort of thing. So it's either got to be Cody's the face or CM Punk's the face, and I mean a solid face, not like this.
I'm gonna say CM Punk be more of the face because Cody Rhodes has been getting a shitload of fucking boos.
But I think that's the fatigue of being a champion. I think if Randy would have snatched it from him, it would have made more sense. Like snatched the championship from him, it would have made more sense. But I like Punk as, I don't like him walking this line of I could be either or. Randy does that a lot better and a lot more enjoyable for me than CM Punk does. I neither need to see CM Punk either be a face or a heel. No walking that line, blurring the line, either or. I need to see more. I need to see more either ors in certain top tier characters, even though that is not the case in reality in non-wrestling life. Um,
Yeah.
so I think it would be more entertainment to see clearly defined heels and faces going when it goes to championships. But sometimes in life you just don't get that.
Yeah. I
So
mean, it's well, and
what?
it's always been the heel versus the face in pretty much anything.
Yeah.
And someone has to play one part and someone has to play the other. Otherwise, it just doesn't work because it's just like it's two nice guys that are friends that just want to have a match, you know. And then that's why you had to see Randy go to that place, you know, to be the heel, and you have to let him do heel things because it it unblurs the line between him being a heel or being a face. And it's obnoxious that it took Pat McAfee being with him to kind of, you know, to unblur those lines. Um, you know, but again, I mean, who else would they have had do it? And
Mhm.
that's the biggest question because Ted DiBiase Jr. showed up and got put back in his seat.
Yeah, because
Um,
he was drunk.
yeah, and so, you know, so it wouldn't have been him, and so like they just had to have someone. And I guess, you know, I think Pat did a good job in regards to saying the things that he said, behaving in the way he behaved, but I wish it was anybody else. But, you know, it is what it is. But again, we move past it quick though. And so, you know, we'll just have to wait and see. Now, a thing that happens quite often when you get the Raw and SmackDowns after WrestleMania, you get some new faces, some call ups, and so we got to see Ethan Page come from NXT to the main roster to face Javon Evans, which this can be a feud for a couple weeks, maybe a month. There's a lot of NXT history between these two guys. And I think that they paired together well in a storyline, much like they did in NXT. So this is kind of a run back. But I also don't want Javon to get lost in the shuffle, just because he's been having really good matches on the main roster. Obviously, a phenomenal ladder match at WrestleMania. And so I don't want him to lose momentum. Um, and again, I'm not against Ethan Page. I like Ethan Page too. Um,
Mhm.
but you know, I hope that they don't, you know, pull the leash back a little bit, as it were, on the momentum of Javon Evans. So we also get another return, or I guess a call up, and we get Sol Ruka coming out to basically approach Liv Morgan. Obviously, ends up leading to a match. Obviously, Liv winning that match, obviously with the help of not even the Judgment Day, really. Um, Basically, you had Zarya come, which Sol had a match with literally the following night, in a last woman standing match. So obviously there was beef there. So obviously, with quite a bit of help from Zarya, obviously Liv ends up getting the win. Now, this doesn't mean, I don't think this means Zarya is going to the main roster. I don't think
Mhm.
this means Zarya is going to align with the Judgment Day. I think this is pure individual storyline beef, between the once best friends, and that's all it was. Um, but however, honestly, it's nice to see the call ups. It's nice to see fresh faces. Um, it was honestly phenomenal to see Sol Ruka at Royal Rumble. You know, and so I think we're on the precipice of, you know, fresh storylines.
Mhm.
And you know, because I don't think they're not picking these fights just randomly. I honestly think that, and not the saying she's gonna win, but I definitely see a Sol Ruka Liv Morgan match for the belt here in the next couple months. And again, she still has to prove her credibility, much like Obafemi. And so, you know, I see Sol moving forward into some pretty good championship opportunities, whether it's Livs or a secondary title or whatever. But I'm excited to see fresh faces to the main roster, obviously at the behest of the releases, obviously. So I mean, it's replenishing the herd essentially. Um, but so man, so we get the emergence after the uh, live and all that nonsense, and we got the return of the Street Profits. And after, yeah, obviously after the attack on Seth Rollins by the Vision, obviously with Braun Breaker, and man, the Street Profits, I'm glad they're back. Now, I don't think they're aligning with Seth Rollins. We don't need another 25,000 factions. But it's nice to see them back. And it has been a long time since we've got them back. Yeah. And I hope again they bring them back in the fold of storylines.
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
I think we're definitely going to see a championship match for the belts here fairly soon. I don't think they're going to strike while the iron's hot. And honestly, I see the Street Profits winning. And and maybe we get, and they definitely had different bravado when they came out versus the OG Street Profits. I don't think we're going to get the Solo Cup shower we got in the past. I think this is going to be a new Street Profits. I think this is going to be more of a when they were with Bobby Lashley and MVP kind of Street Profits. Which I think is great for them because it blurs the lines between being a heel and a face. Because obviously everyone loves Montez Ford. Angelo Dawkins is along for the ride, and that's nothing.
Which is unfortunate. I think Angelo is very good in his own right. Yeah, that's what I have to say about that.
Yeah, but obviously, after the whole kerfuffle and then they take the Vision out, obviously Seth does end up getting freaking annihilated by Braun Breaker. Obviously, again, which will be leading us into a Backlash match. If they don't, they're stupid. I
don't think this interaction and build is not for a Backlash match. Yeah.
It just has to. It has to come to a head at some point. But so the next match we had Finn Balor versus JD McDonough. Obviously Finn getting the win, obviously, but getting attacked like a mother after by the Judgment Day. And this is no different than when Damian Priest left.
Yeah.
This is paralleled, right? And so Finn's going to have to basically for the next 3 to 6 months, unfortunately, have to deal with the Judgment Day before they officially kind of let him go, like onto something else.
Which
maybe we see him go to SmackDown or something. Maybe we see him switch brands and go do something else, much like they did with Damian Priest. So that's how that's going to get rolled out. Yeah, and so yeah, it's definitely wasn't the best Monday Night Raw after SmackDown or after WrestleMania, but I mean, at least it's giving us, a certain setup value. to some future storylines that could be very entertaining. So now, speaking of entertaining storylines, so Friday Night SmackDown kicks off with Jacob Fatu basically doing Jacob Fatu things, and some odd reason we get the Usos out there as well.
No, it's a follow up from what was done on Monday night. It was a follow up, so it's not an odd reason. You got two cousins talking to their second cousin about it. This is interesting because you got one cousin that's like, "Hey man, I'm looking out for you." You got another cousin that's egging you on. It's like, hey, so one cousin is looking like, I don't want to see you get hurt, but
Yeah, it's like
it's that looking back on that, that's interesting because then you have, when the MFTs show up, you got like distant cousins kind of stirring the pot, and the only thing is it's like one cousin just want to come up and he's looking at another cousin's like, I want all the stuff. I don't give a damn about being the head of the table. I want the stuff that you got. I got kids to feed. Why does Jacob have like 7 daughters? Or like he's got nothing but girls he's got to take care of, right? I'm not mad at Jacob Fatu for for doing that. Remember when Heath Slater said, "I got kids to feed"?
Yes, that's what I was gonna say. I was like, we need to redo a re-rendering of "I Got Kids" and have like Jacob Fatu on the back.
Yes, you know what?
And have him around a table with like all of his daughters.
Yeah. So
I got kids.
I get it. It's like, all right, I let you do your thing, Roman. I saw what you got. I saw all the things. I don't care about being at the head of the table. I just want what you got. And in order for me to get what you got, that means if I have to go through you, all right, cool. Let's do it.
Yeah.
It's
weird too, is because Solo wasn't wrong about the fact that obviously he brought Jacob Fatu into the fold. Obviously ended up not working out too good for Jacob Fatu, as far as being in the MFT stuff and the Bloodline 2.0 crap. Obviously the best thing for him was being on his own. And Jacob is literally one of those guys that he does not need any co-parts. He does not need any backup. He does not need any of that, and he proved that when, he attacks, I believe, Tama Tonga, and so they go into this whole beef, which obviously leads us into a match later. But someone made a valid point though, is that where was Tama Tonga? And I've the multiple videos that I've watched in regards to this is we don't know if there's an injury or something. There really hasn't been anything said. They've just kind of continued with the storyline without him. But yeah, it definitely is an intriguing storyline because obviously the bloodline is deep. The Samoan bloodline is deeper than the Mariana Trench. So like any of this stuff, these storylines could come out of really nowhere and still fit like they were meant to be, because it's just the Samoan stuff, man. Like these guys got beef with whoever they want to have beef with, and I thought obviously Solo coming out basically acting like he could help him out, and Jacob Fatu don't need no help, and so I definitely look forward to what this brings. Just because you got the Roman on one side, like, you ain't ready, or you have, the MFTs on the other side saying, well, we can help you, but Jacob Fatu don't want no help. So I look forward to what this storyline brings up. Now, the next match of the night was something I vaguely touched on a little bit ago, but So we get Tiffany Stratton versus Julia for the Women's United States Championship. Obviously, Tiffany Stratton comes out on top. And now I don't know what this really does for Julia moving forward, unfortunately. And, when her and Stephanie Vaquer came up, you had the expectations because of the history. And obviously, Stephanie Vaquer is knocked out of the park, but Julia's been very behind the scenes, quiet. Obviously, being tagged with, a partner, and Kiana James, and so like, I don't know what her story is or what her plan is without the title. Now, again, I don't want this to be one of those round robin things with 4 different competitors for the title like they do for the IC women's. I really hope they figure it out that they need to really just run the roulette wheel with the possibilities of matchups. Because the more matchups, the more eyes on the the wrestlers that people don't know about. And even if they take an L, they still get a W because they get seen. They get presented. People can now see what they're worth. And and the caliber that they can put on as far as matches. So I really hope that the women's secondary title scene just really needs to figure out some better segues, some better path to more matchups, because sadly the women's tag team division is well over more important than the women's secondary titles. And yeah, so obviously we get Brie Bella and Nikki Bella and Paige obviously come out, being that they won the championships, yada yada. In typical fashion, obviously we get Charlotte and Alexa out. And I will say I'm starting to really like how Nick Aldis operates, because they have him set up to basically be coming out and being like, okay, well, we already know where this is going to go, so get a ref. and I think that's so much better than just letting them brawl and then leaving the ring and really getting anything out of the fight. Obviously Brie Bella and Paige obviously ends in a no contest, go figure. Because we get the emergence again with another call up. We get Fatal Influence coming out with JC Jane. Oh man, I'm so bad with names. With Laney Reed and Fallon Henley. I don't know if this is a full blown call up. I kind of would assume it is. But yeah, I mean, well deserved, well earned. Really, Laney Reed really is kind of the odd girl out. She hasn't been with the group for very long. JC Jane and Fallon Henley obviously were, and then obviously one of the girls got released, and so they had to fill the void of the third person, and that's where you get Laney Reed. Now, this was exciting to see them just absolutely booed, and I think any good heel would tell you, as long as I get a reaction, I don't care if it's good, bad, or indifferent, you get a reaction. And man, they were booed hard. And that's literally the parallel to being cheered or being booed. Either way, you got the reaction. And so I look forward to what they do with the fresh faces. Obviously, they don't really have too many 3-girl groups, other than obviously with Judgment Day they have. But to what this brings, JC Jane obviously was in NXT for longer than really anybody, and it's unfortunate, but I feel like maybe this is her time to shine.
Yeah,
So
perhaps.
I'm all for it. Um, now, yeah, I don't even I just want to glaze over this, but no, we just get to deal with Cody Rhodes coming out and blah 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 and move on. All right, anyways. So we get to see R-Truth and Damian Priest versus Tama Tonga and JC Mateo for the tag titles. Obviously, in typical R-Truth, he's using his hero's moves. One attitude adjustment, one five knuckle.
Oh, that's his older brother, his younger brother, or something like that.
yeah, his older brother. But yeah, I like this pairing of Damian Priest and R-Truth.
Oh, it's a great combo.
But like my only quarrel is that when are we going to bring Damian Priest back into the championship picture? Not just tag belts, not just secondary.
Not anytime soon.
Yeah. Yep. I agree with him. Yeah, I'm thinking like maybe even a year from now. Yeah. Let him play with house money. Let him have fun. Let him be on TV. He'll have another championship around his way, singles gold. But no. I mean, it's too crowded. They've got too many other interesting stories that they can make money off of. I am glad that Damian Priest did get his runs when he did get his runs. Yeah, but no time soon.
Yeah. So the next bit we got to deal with is obviously Trick Williams coming out with Lil Yachty and the Gingerbread Man.
Okay,
that shit was hilarious.
Dude, it's. I'm sorry, dude. It's.
Whoever
just
taught
funny.
Sami Zayn to dance, and it was just fucking hilarious.
Well, it's Sami Zayn, man. But
It's
like,
Sami Zayn.
He probably learned from the Usos.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so you're seeing Trick Williams celebrating everything, and then turns out the Gingerbread Man is one Sami Zayn. And I'm sorry, dude, this segment was gold. I'm sorry. Like,
shit was hilarious.
I love the comic relief, and Trick took it on the chin, and so this United States Championship thing with Sami Zayn and Trick, it's probably going to happen at Backlash. I think we get a run back.
Oh, definitely, 100%.
I don't think we're going to see any I don't think we're going to honestly see any of the top men's and women's championships defended at Backlash. I think obviously this being more of a third tier PLE, maybe 2 second tier, maybe, but like, we're gonna just kind of get some quarrels that have happened and just kind of draw some kind of conclusion to these storylines. So now, speaking of interesting storylines, so we get Danhausen versus The Miz, and man, Danhausen is something else.
Fucking hilarious.
Like, I mean, the cursed thing is literally the best thing on SmackDown right now. And the fact that he went to The Miz's house, I mean, all this stuff. I mean, like, it's good television, and like, we need more of this stuff because at least it's entertaining, right? I mean, it is World Wrestling Entertainment, and Danhausen is knocking it out of the park. And especially now that he has this little mini tank, which looks like they just revamped Shotzi's freaking tank and put something.
They didn't give it back to her, and they just gave it to someone else.
Pretty much.
It sat in storage for a while, but like, it's funny, and I feel like we need to laugh more. I mean, we have the R-Truth stuff, and we always have R-Truth to fall back on to make us
Mhm.
laugh.
I would love
But
to see him and
but
R-Truth team up.
oh my god, man, yeah. I just think it's good for the soul, man. And I just yeah, and the the curse stuff is literally just funny. I think, and in the crowds into it, and when you have something fun for the crowd to interact with, rather than just chants of boos or or cheers or whatever, just have fun.
Mhm.
I had my reserve about Danhausen because I didn't know a ton about him before he came, but good sign, good sign. I you don't sometimes he's proof that you don't need to all have a million matches to prove your worth. So now we finally get Rhea coming out, and obviously again plagued by Fatal Influence coming out after that, and obviously beating Rhea up, which again it's one of the it's this is the nuance of basically the premise of the Raw and SmackDown after WrestleMania is to create a new buzz. Um, Now I don't think this is again a situation where we're going to see JC Jane and Rhea Ripley like anytime in the next 3 months.
Mhm.
But this is just to let that talent pick a fight with the biggest dog in the yard and build something off that. And if you can build something like that for a while, once you finally get that matchup, at least it has some good build. And I think that's the premise of Fatal Influence coming to the main roster is we're gonna shake shit up, right? I mean, this is no different than Damage Control, right? They're there to just start picking fights and see what sticks. So we obviously did get a Rhea versus JC Jane match. Obviously, ending in disqualification was again no real surprise there. Um, and obviously the segment before with Jacob Fatu, MFTs, yada yada, and basically I believe it was Tama Tonga basically saying you can't beat. How are you going to beat Roman if you can't beat Solo? Which obviously leads us into this match where obviously Jacob Fatu does get the W over Solo, and yeah, I mean, so that's where we're at now. Something that was recent, obviously, was the plethora of releases, and like let's talk about it. Like I mean, the some of the ones I don't care about. Apollo Crews I don't care about. Alba Fire I don't care about. Zoe Stark obviously was injured, so it kind of sucks to be injured and getting released at the same time.
Yeah, I think that was really shitty. Anytime you're injured with a in a company and you get released, um, I think that's in bad taste. I think Eric Bischoff did that in WCW, and I think it was with Stone Cold. While he was injured, he got released. Matter of fact, I think it was maybe in the hospital.
Yeah,
I
He
think
got
so.
released or something. Or
I think
yeah,
so.
yeah.
yep.
And so
So
it's kind of shady,
it's yep. It is really shitty.
you know.
Um,
But it just goes to prove that no one's safe unless you're a Samoan.
I don't even think that is the case. I think if some of
I
I think
mean,
some of the MFTs, like I,
Tamina is still employed,
you know what? I
and
mean,
she hasn't wrestled a match in like 4 years.
I,
Yet she's
you know
still
what?
employed.
Good for her. Good for her. I'm, you
So
know,
it's
yeah.
yeah. But and then
Yeah.
obviously Santos Escobar.
And they had
Alice,
just brought him back, and he was in AAA. So I don't know if he was released because of performance or contract issues or behavior or whatever have you. That's they just brought him back like this year or late last year. he made, he started, because they had released him before.
Yeah, I
So
don't know what their deal is with like and the thing is with Santos having, Legado del Fantasma, it's like why when you have established tag team stuff, do you get rid of some of the only real established tag teams? Like they're killing, like they're literally making the men's tag team division like slim pickings. There used to be like probably 5 or 6 established tag teams on each brand at one point. And now it's like we're down to minuscule. I mean, even with NXT, there's more factions now than there is established tag teams. And I don't know if it's TKO being against the tag team division or what, but it's like if they're gonna keep on releasing the only tag teams they got, they might as well do away with the men's tag team division at this point, because we're just gonna go round robin with three or four teams, and that's it. Or they're gonna have to sit there and fabricate like they have, with the tag team with R-Truth and Damian Priest, or what they've done with Bayley and Lyra Valkyria, or what they did with Charlotte and Alexa. I mean, it's to the point where they get rid of established tag teams and then just fabricate a bunch of people together and say, "Hey, you want to join forces? Sure." Like I don't get it. Why? I feel like they've lost the luster for tag team wrestling in its entirety, and I don't understand it, because tag team wrestling was the pinnacle in the 90s, 2000, 2010 era. I mean, you look at the tag teams of those days. I mean, you got Edge and Christian, you got the Dudleys, you got the Hardys, you got APA, you got the list. And now it's like they've just drifted away from tag team wrestling. But
WWE goes through this cycle of tag team wrestling, and sometimes they invest in it and sometimes they don't. And what I don't like is the inconsistency. We need tag team wrestling.
yeah, and speaking of more tag teams being destroyed, obviously they get rid of Motor City Machine Guns, which are an established tag team for probably 2 decades. And then they also released Kairi Sane, who was literally part of the Kabuki Warriors.
That's insane. Yeah,
And that's insane, pun
It pissed me
intended,
off.
right?
yeah.
She was my favorite.
And so it's like you had such strong stories with them. There was no lacking, in Kairi Sane and Asuka's like dynamic. But and then obviously the one that pissed the most people off was the Wyatt Six.
Yeah, all of them.
I mean, when they brought them back, it was this. They destroyed everybody in back. I mean, there was this whole freaking murder scene practically.
Yeah.
And we waited 6 months for it to happen. And then now here we are. They were in storylines. They were literally just with MFT stuff. They, had stuff before WrestleMania. They had the street fight. And then it's like all of a sudden gone. Like you have a gem here because you have this team that's functioned off the story of Bray Wyatt. And now you're just spitting in the face of Bray Wyatt. Now, if they were released 5 years down the road, it's whatever. But the Bray Wyatt stuff is still fresh. The Wyatt family is still fresh. And to release the whole freaking group, for what reason? Eric Rowan's still a monster. You had good matchups for him. You had Dexter Lumis and Joe Gacy as kind of the main tag team. You had Nikki Cross as the goofy gimmick, whatever. And then you had Uncle Howdy. You had all this stuff established. and then all of a sudden, as soon as you like them doing this is like the epitome of like Detroit sports teams getting players really, they get them to their peak and then they release them or they trade them or whatever. And it's
Yep.
like, I don't understand how you have something established, something that has history, something that goes back to the legacy of Bray Wyatt, and then you just piss on it and then you get rid of them all.
I wouldn't be surprised if this could be a tactic to get them at lower rates or more profit-friendly contracts. I wouldn't be surprised if someone comes back and and that be the deal.
Or they go to
Who
AEW.
knows?
I don't see
I don't say it's probable. I don't think it's probable.
Yeah,
but
I
obviously
think
with like the Luke Harper connection.
the Luke Harper. Yeah, I would
mean,
see Rowan going, but I would not see. I could see Rowan doing something potentially. I could see a really big acquisition with Kairi Sane. But even AEW, if we could, just for a moment, I think Kairi could go to AEW for a year and not be utilized the way WWE could have utilized her. And then Kairi just going back to Japan and doing whatever she wants.
I think she's going to go back to New Japan.
Yeah. I think Rowan could be a good fit with AEW, but he would not be utilized in the same way, if at all. He would just it would be a lateral move for him, because I don't see the creative being there for him in big men wrestling in AEW. Dexter Lumis, perhaps, especially with, I think Ring of Honor would be a good fit for Dexter Lumis. I think a couple of people from NXT that was released, they could go elsewhere and be utilized more, like TNA, MLW, MWL, the Maple Leaf, and the Major League wrestling promotions. They could do well. I could see a couple of guys going over to New Japan, who I think could just be fine not doing anything with wrestling, is Zelina Vega. I think she could just be fine doing and going wherever she wants. TNA could pick her up immediately, and she could be working within a couple of weeks after her non-compete.
Do you think that Aleister Black would go with her though?
I think Aleister Black has perhaps blacklisted himself because of his interactions with AEW. I don't think he left on terms.
I'm not saying go back to AEW. I'm saying going with Zelina to another promotion.
I think he'll go to TNA.
I think he might be more of a problem. Not to say that his in-ring work isn't fantastic or him as a wrestler and as a character isn't interesting. I think the stuff that we don't see might cause an issue with other promotions. If he can work through them and find the right promotion that wants to build around him, I think he'll be okay. But I think AEW, I think the door might be closed on that. TNA, perhaps. Maybe it's a package deal. They both go somewhere and they both try to make something work. Just like Karrion Kross and Scarlett has made their thing work. I'm surprised at all the releases that Johnny Gargano and his wife weren't released. Because that means that there's work.
They're down to NXT though.
But I mean, obviously that doesn't matter because they released so many people from NXT and even Evolve. You know what I'm saying? People that I was like, interested in seeing. They released a former Olympic champion who was doing really well, who seemed to be received. I can't think of her name. It's a 3-word name. So wherever you are in the TKO machine, I don't think you're safe from releases. And I think the younger you are in your career, the less impact this release has on you.
I agree.
The older you are in your career, the more it has impact. Like, you could make WWE work, and a lot of people would be like, "Oh man, I would never." It's like, you don't know what it takes to be a WWE superstar, the grind, the work. And I think may have commented on that before. And some people are probably thinking like, "Thank God I'm out of that machine." You know, Apollo Crews had been with them for 11 years. I think Akira Tozawa is probably at 11 years. I'm surprised he wasn't released. I'm surprised that Otis wasn't released. And maybe there's more releases coming up, but we know that this happens every WrestleMania, that superstars are released. It's unfortunate that some favorites were released, some were surprising, others were like, I had no idea this person was signed. This is new to me. It's wild because you don't want to see people who make it to what they think is the big time, the pinnacle. Yeah. And then they're there for a while. You start to get, attached to them, and then they get released. It's not that they died. It's just that, the company like let certain people go. If you gave a damn about them, which I hope that you do, you learn more about professional wrestling outside the WWE landscape, and you go and support those wrestlers. Some of them may retire, some of them may go home. Home might not be the United States, and you just follow them. If you care about professional wrestling and care about those characters and care about those performers as human beings and their livelihoods, and you're interested to see what goes for them next, you support them. You find out more. That's it. I'm off my soapbox rather. Yeah. I for a couple of these performers, this is the best thing that could have happened to them this year or in their entire wrestling career. For a few of them, this sucks because I don't know what you're gonna do.
Well, I mean, I guess we will do as we do, and we will wait and see.
Yep.
And we will see what this week, Monday, Friday. Let's see what we get ourselves into. Obviously, we're roughly a month from Backlash, so we have some time to build something to Backlash. I think Backlash, people that are like acting like they're gonna make Backlash like a bunch of matches, and it's always every secondary PLE is 4 matches, maybe 5. Now with the time limit they've been giving these guys, man, I would say they could do 6. They could do 7 matches with the time that they're given. So, but we will wait and see. We will put a pin in this as we do. And we will see you guys next week. Hopefully we have more to talk about. And being we're on the outs of WrestleMania, and we will see what becomes of the rest of it. So this is the Lockdown Podcast. Peace.